Hello everyone. Today I want to talk about one 3 cash game in Encore Wynn in Las Vegas that I played on December 20th. I did quite a bit of studying of preflop and tried to do better comparing to my last day where I lost a lot because of preflop mistakes pretty much. And let's see how it turned out. So some structure is buying from 100 to 500. I got 300. The rake is progressive, so they take $1 from first 10, then $1 from the next 10, and so on, and no rake pre-flop, which is very nice. Let's jump into some hands. I'll show 9 hands today. I've selected some of the more interesting ones, so this video doesn't take too long. Okay, let's jump into it. So here I flop the full house. So I have sixes on the big blind, cutoff raises to 15, small blind calls, and I have an easy call for a set mine with a deep stack. And I got an effective nuts, and there are 2 spades on the board. Small blind bets, I'm pretty safe with my hand, so I decide to slow play and just call. Cutoff raises to 60, which is good news. Small blind folds, and I again decide to keep slow playing it and just call. Turn is a 4 of spades. I decide to let cutoff continue as the aggression because flush draw or some 5, maybe a hand there playing with. I think if they don't have a spade, that can slow down the action. But at the same time, I think leading here would can scare away some 5s, for example. So I still want to keep playing passively, I think, and only go all in after the player bets, which he does, and I win versus a flush. So he played it too aggressively. I think it's been too much given the board is paired. So, and he was already drawing dead. So I think if he just calls 15, then on a turn I would bet, but the bet would be probably more 50 or so. And on a river, I can still probably push all in, and he would have a tough decision. So I may still as well lose the stack, but again, he would need to at least make decision whether to make 2 big calls. But I think he's probably not getting away from a flush, but given that there may be some 5s pushing or overplaying it. And I think also raise can be a bit premature because small blind and big blind would have 6s and 5s in their range. So yeah, I personally would just play with a call. Next hand is folding to pair on a scary board. The board was really scary. So I have Jack 8 of hearts on button, raise to 9, and blinds call. Flop gives me a gut shot and a middle pair, but there is also a flush draw of not my suit. So it blinds check, and I just check. I have a marginal made hand, so I just ideally want to check it down till the river. And have a cheap showdown. Turn gives me a second pair, but also it brings 4 to a straight and 3 to a flush. So small blind bets 20 and big blind calls. So I just decided to fold, and as turns out, I saved myself some money. So probably against one player, I'm just calling because I need some bluff catching, and I think 2 pair acts as a good bluff catcher. But against 2 players and a call, I think I might in the best case be versus some like draw plus 2 pair, but 2 pair is probably like better than mine. So I think at this point it's just like very high chance that they at least have a 9 for like one of them, or like a flush. River 5 of diamonds. Small blind checks, big blind bets 45, and there is a fold, and there is like 9-7 of diamonds for a straight flush. So yeah, it's been a right fold. You don't always need to like bluff catch when the situation is not that good. And then that's been an interesting hand where I did a light 3-bet with ace 8 of diamonds on a button, I think. There's been a limp, middle position raises, and I do 3-bet. There are folds, and original raiser calls. Flop is jack 9-7 with 1 diamond, and middle position leads to 55. I decided to push all in, but there is a catch. When I was checking the stack, I saw about like 200. So I thought this kind of gonna be like a good semi bluff. So I get 6 outs, like 2 for like backdoor flush draw. So 6 outs is about like 24%. But also later, and like after a few hands, I noticed that the opponent had some like 25 cheaps. So there is a chance he was just like holding them in their hands on something and I didn't notice. So all-in actually could have been for like more like 400. Still a pretty interesting all-in. I think like increasing the size makes it like harder to call. So I still like let's analyze it with like 200. So the pot is about 150. And I'm risking 200 to win 150. So and let's say if I get called, I only have 24%. So I'm considering that opponent calls with like 2 pair or better. If he calls with jacks, for example, with jack and something, I might have like ace as an extra out, but I wouldn't count on that in particular because there may be some ace jack. So with 200, it's gonna be a risk 200 to win 150. So like if I get called, I win let's say about 300 with a chance of like 1/4, so it's plus 75, and I lose 200 with a chance of 3/4, so that's about 150. So 75 minus 150 is like minus 75. So I need to have a fold equity about just like 33% to make this push being neutral. With 400 it gets a bit more interesting. So I think I need a lot more fold equity, but I can get it potentially. So this overall, I think the root of this that I don't trust leads all that much. If he has a really strong hand, he would probably like check raise. So yeah, and when he leads, he may just like try to like blow off like ace king, but ace king may like for example do continuation bet. So he might just as well like check call that instead. So his line just didn't make as much sense, and that's why I decided to bluff. Opponent folded and has been like asking me about this hand a few times. Like later, I think when he like lost, I actually told him what I had, and he was like leaving the table. Sometimes it happens. Some players just cannot like let it go and keep asking you all the time like what's been there. I usually don't tell, but if for example if they're leaving or I'm leaving, I might think I might as well just tell. So it's probably fine with me. Let's get to the next hand where I flopped a set. You have like 8s in middle position. There's limp, raise to 20, calls, and I just call. Flop is 10-8-7, raiser bet 60, so there is a call. I decide to just like play it aggressively and raise to 240, like almost a pot size. So I'm going all in with this hand. There's possibilities of some like Jack 9, but I still have some decent equity against that. And there are possibilities of sets, so here I'm like in a mixed shape because there's one set better than mine and one set worse than mine. All in all, I have a hard time folding set, especially in this kind of cash games, and you probably can already see why I shouldn't like fold set, because original raiser goes all in for effective 700, that other player folds, and I call, and he had aces. So yeah, probably too ambitious of an all-in for my opponent. I think if he thinks I'm bluffing, he might just better like call or something. But he probably like put me on some like straight draw or something. But then again, he can just like call and see what I do on a turn. Because if I'm like bluffing, I would just fold and he doesn't realize equity, but he doesn't get all the equity he can rather. But if he just calls and then checks, I might decide to like try to keep blasting, and he can just call me if he doesn't like believe me. So and his hand just doesn't look too strong for an all-in, because everything that's like strong enough and calls all-in is just like beats him. Then unexpected hand. Yeah, I was really surprised how it turned out. So I have kings with king of clubs. There's a limp, I raise to 15 and lose blind 3 bets to 50. I do 4 bet to 150 and get a call. I think effective stack was about like 6 or 700 or so. I think about 700, yeah. So flop is 9-8-3 with 2 clubs. Blind checks. I could just do a small like a standard continuation bet. So it's like about half of the pot size. I think here I consider myself having a nut advantage because I don't put my opponent on any like small pairs. So I should probably have bet like bigger for 200. But at the same time, I think like my opponent could have called with like kings, queens, jacks. So, and in terms of range advantage, I think I have a slight range advantage, but maybe not like big enough. So, let me see. So, if I do have nut advantage, I think I should bet big. If I don't have nut advantage, I should bet small. And if I do have range advantage, I should bet like frequently. So yeah, I think I'm just continuation betting here. I'm not 100% sure on the sizing, but I think 150 seems also about good. I got raised to 300 and comment that I must have something since I bet 150. That was a bit like scary, because it's like opponent may hint that, oh yeah, I have something that probably I must call. But at the same time, I couldn't put her on like any like really strong hand that beats me. Maybe except it's like slow played aces, but also there could be some like queens, which like might just take this line too, or like even jacks, which are getting overplayed, or just some bluff with some ace king. So I just decide to go all in, because if I call, the pot gets to like 900 and stacks I get like 400 in my stack. So I thought I might as well just like go in with there because I thought I have a best hand and just maybe, but maybe if she has like queens or jacks and there is like an overcard comes, she'll be like too scared to like like go all in on the next street. but she showed 9, so she like kind of made a bad call, not really by like set mining odds on a preflop, but got lucky. However, I got lucky as well, so I got 2 clubs on a turn and river, and that gave me a flush, which beat her. I checked in like poker calculator, and it showed that I only had like 12%. So yeah, that's been like, people might call me a lucky fish. But at the same time, I don't really see how I could play the hands that differently, because like, except I think it was like maybe loose players I should not discount that they may call for bet with like some small pair. But also there is a high chance of like being against like queens or jacks, and there are just more combinations of those available. So given that this is 4-bet pot, it's just kind of hard to get away from like an overpair of kings. If I had queens, I would probably just like call pre-flop, and it wouldn't like blow out of proportion as much. So yeah, sometimes this happens. There's been an interesting hand with the trips. So there's a bunch of limps, and I have F7 of diamond, easy limp. I think there has been no reason to like raise because the hand is not super strong. Flop gives me like trips with 10, 7, 7, but there are also 2 clubs. There is a bet 15, there's a call. Given there are some draws available like for 8, 9 or club draw, I decide to raise to 65, and since there is like a better and a caller, there's a high chance they have something. So one person like folds and another person calls. Turn is a jack. That's not a great card because 8-9 got there. So there is a check though. So I decide to keep like value betting because then there is still a club draw available, and I think like 8-9 is probably people can still play offsuit 8-9, but suited is more likely. So I would say there may be like amortized, I don't know, 12 combinations of those or something. But club draws are like with ace or king, there are probably more depending on how loose is the player. Like, I honestly don't know. There is also an option to just check behind. But then I'm feeling like I'm giving draws a free card, and I may also under-realize my equity against a weaker 7. So I just bet 100. So on the sizing, that's probably about like 2/3 of the pot, which I think is a pretty good size here. So I'm very frequent ahead. I have like after this raise, I'm kind of representing a 7 or like better. So I have a nut advantage, and I have like almost a nut hand. So then the person goes all in though for like 400 to 500. So that's where I became really scared of 8-9. But also I think I figured that there may be just another 7, or maybe some like even semi bluff. So in the end I just called. Rivers and ace give me full house. So I really thought, okay, maybe I just like got lucky against 8-9, but no, opponent just showed like ace-7 and we chopped. Yeah, sometimes that happens too. Slow playing string hand, strong hand. I have ace king of suit on middle position. There is a raise to 10 from a loose player call. I 3-bet to 40, but get 2 calls. Flop is king 7-6 offsuit. So it checks. I decide to check because the hand seems like not super vulnerable. There is a straight draw available, but like I decide to give it a shot and like try just slow play sometimes. Turn is an ace. It's another great card for me. So this is a check, bet 30. I again keep slow play and just call, and there's another person calls. River is a king, so giving me effective nuts. This is a check, bet to 60. I raised to 200, hoping that maybe another like king would call me, or maybe some like ace would think I'm bluffing. But unfortunately, there are folds. Person was commenting something about like bluffing, so I'm not actually sure if he really had anything like callable. But looks like by slow playing, I might have like extracted more values and by not slow playing. Then here I like to call and trying to catch bluffs. So that's kind of what I was thinking here. Have king 9 suited on big blind, cutoff raises to I think 15, small blind calls. I think since it's cutoff, king 9 suited may be pretty good. And I'm getting like some pot odds because like small blind called, so I decide to stick around. Flop is AJX with 2 hearts, so I have nothing. So I just like check, but also cut off checks. Turn is a king. Small blind bets 20. I'm not going anywhere, so small blind may just like... Small blind may have an ace though, but he may also have some like jack or quote another king as well. Or maybe just like bluffing with some hard draw. The range is quite open, so it's pretty much all of the like starting range, which is like it shouldn't be like super wide because the raise is kind of big pre-flop. But I think there are still like a decent amount of hands I can beat, so I'm not gonna fall to one bet. River is a 6. Small blind bets 60. So I think 60 is probably where I could have like really folded. The problem is it's a big bet. So it's what so it's like about 50 pre-flops and 90, so it's like about 2/3 of a pot. So again, sometimes like if you know this is aggressive player, you can just like call and they show some like weird bluff. Here I don't think I had this read. So I think ace is actually like better for where there's like kind of calling and like bluff catching. King though is getting close, I think. I can win versus like random jack or just like a busted flush draw. Yeah, I think it's like busted flush draw is another reason I've been like thinking that of call because that gives a lot of like potential bluffs. Then I took a break, cashed out and went to have a dinner, returned and bought in for 300. There hasn't been as much happening but until like this hand. Where I just like decided to represent trips. So I have like 10-9 of clubs on the right position, raise to 9, get 2 callers. Flop is ace of clubs, king and 6. I bet to 15 because I have a nut advantage. Actually, I should have bet bigger because I have another advantage to like 20 or so. Loose player raises to 30. I think I was a bit like tilted or something, and I was like more like, I have some like backdoor draws, which is actually not that good. But I've been thinking that like, okay, maybe this min raise tries to like blow me off the pot or something, so I decided to float and like try to see if I can take down a pot later. Turn is a king. So I check, get a bet 25 and decide to like bluff it. Just trying to show that, okay, maybe have some king queen or like ace king or something. Opponent was like, did a gesture where it's like, oof, like tilted his head back or something and then like thought for a bit but then called eventually. River is a 10, but don't think it's like too good for me because he probably just has some ace. So I decided to continue with like this like punt and go all in for about 190, but it gets rather quickly called by ace-6 offsuit. So yeah, he had like 2 pair on the flop, but then it got counterfeited. I think he just couldn't believe that the line I would take with like a raise. So he its raise is probably pretty polarizing, so it's like a king or nothing. So he probably decided to still like bluff catch me, because for example ace queen would probably be afraid of a king and likely just calls. So yeah, I think my mistake was just like not folding on a flop, because those min raises they still often indicate strengths, although sometimes can be used for bluffing. But I think from what I think about those like small stake games, it seems like it's gonna be more often a strength than a bluff. And again, I had nothing, so it's like I should just like consider that yeah, continuation, but failed, and like just move on to the next hand. Then I stop for the day. Sometimes the best decision is just stop playing when tired or not having enough patience, just because you might just like punt more and more. Yeah, that's gonna be it for me for today. Thanks for watching. See you next time.